We are just days away from the 2025 NFL draft. That's what the build-up's been all for. And the rumors are swirling. We're going to talk about a big one that's out there. Are the Miami Dolphins interested in offensive tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas? This is very interesting. We're going to talk about it because there were multiple reports out there today regarding it. We'll talk about that. Also, is that just a smokescreen? And Kenneth Grant is the apple of the Miami Dolphins' eyes. We will talk about that as well. Man, just a lot of draft stuff to go over today. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. We're going to go over some mock drafts. We're going to do it all today, baby. Let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field on the near side, man open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's going over the touchdown again. Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one. Shout out to each and every one of you in the chat. I haven't done it in a while. Smash that like button, subscribe if you're new. So let's do a shout out. All right. Shout out to Dolphins Frank, Marino's Goat, Stetson O, Omar Brown, Cokemaster D, B Rob, Daniel Meehan, Ruckus, Jason Keck, Pro Special, Justin, Russell. Who else we got here? Ian Baller, Casey Mad Pup, Sam Peluso, Richard Romero. How are you doing, sir? Kate Jacks, El Reezy, William Samper, Louis Solis, Lemony Crawdad, Nick Quack. What up, Bobby? What are you up to? Ken Rosa, Greg Sosa, Russell Swan, Matthew Chivrez, and Chip Brown. Teddy, what's going on? Adam, Black Welder, how are you doing? Dennis, how is everyone doing? As we start this week, hey, listen, start off good for me. My optic football arrived, huh? Oh, yeah, I got a couple more on the way. Man, glad I bought that. They sold out over 600 boxes online in like 24 hours. We good out here. All right. Shout out to Greg. Trevor, George, Albanese, Day One George, my guy, George Albanese, Kels, Nick, Jeffrey. You've been there since, man, George, you know I love you, bro. You've been there since day one, dog. When I was on the Tuesday panel, you're one of the first people pushing me and telling me how great I could make this platform and how great we could be. You know, two people I'll shout out specifically that did that. George Albanese and Kyle Almany. They always backed me up since day one. I mean, there's a bunch of people out here, you know, like Kevin Williams been here forever. Chef Jew been here forever. And I met Chef Jew when we were at the tailgate. Great freaking dude. By the way, his baked goods, they're as good as advertised. They're fantastic. But I forgot. Anthony, the homie Anthony, Franklin and son. Anthony had my back for a couple years. He's the homie right there. Finn's Rule. Luau Tran, how are you doing? All right. So let's talk about a few things. Before we get into the main things here. First of all, I love how it's official right now. Yeah, Jason, you've been here for a while. Jason Keck been here for a while. Don't worry. I love how it's been official for, Daddy Dean. There's so many of you, man. I would actually have to sit here and go through. I mean, I didn't even mention Rhino Sit, the god of the mod squad, you know? I'd have to sit here and I'd be here for, I could do an hour show shouting out everyone. that supported me since day one and been around. So, all right. Anyways, I love how it's official now. The Seahawks, you know, man, why you guys making good comments and you keep sideswiping me? Brian been here for a minute too. Yeah, bro. I remember when Brian was like younger and stuff too. Bro, honestly, one of my favorite caps, bro. I will never wear it outside my office because I don't want any like sweat damage to it. I don't want nothing, you know? Like, honestly, one of my favorite caps. You know what it is, George. All right, so back to the point I was trying to make there. Now, we signed Zach Wilson as quarterback 2. If you remember when I did my top quarterback options for the Miami Dolphins, when the season ended, my top one was Kirk Cousins. You know, like, I mean, it just makes so much sense, you know, especially listen, McDaniel has a good relationship with Kirk where he can sit him down and say, listen, K-Dog, all right. Fact of the matter is the percentages are pretty high. Old boy Tua is going to get hurt and you're going to have a chance to slide in there. Now you're going to be 2 years removed from that Achilles. Look at the weapons I've got you if you slide in there. Brother, this is the perfect scenario. Get the Falcons. Hey, you know, the word is right now, teams want us to take a lot of Ramsey's money on. Well, get the Falcons to take on a lot of that Kirk Cousins money. I'd be all over that. I'll give him a 5th or a 6th or a 7th. Or am I going to find a better quarterback in the 5th or 6th or 7th? Sure. I could go draft a guy that I really like Seth Hennigan out of Memphis, who I love as a developmental option. Don't think McCord is going to be there. You know, maybe Curtis Rourke's there, my boy from Indiana. But they don't have the experience Kirk Cousins does. And let's be honest. Look deep inside yourself, all right? Look deep inside yourself. And you will come to this conclusion. Is there a better option right now if Tua goes down than Kirk Cousins, considering his familiarity with the offense? How we've seen him perform with weapons in Minnesota and Washington and etc.? Probably not. But Zach Wilson got us. Yeah, okay. Anyways, and I stand by. You go draft Kyle McCord. Now, politics as usual. All of you Jay-Z fans will get that. Politics as usual will come into effect. And I know it's usual, but I'm saying it that way because of the song. Will come into effect even if McCord outperforms Zach Wilson in camp. We all know what's going to happen. Well, we're paying Zach Wilson $6 million and it's all guaranteed and blah, 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 blah. And yet Kyle McCord is like the perfect mid-round option to potentially run this. Like, I think he could run this offense. I think he's got the skill set. Like, I think there's a few guys in this class that could run this offense if Tua goes down in year one. Do I want any of them starting in year one? No. Okay? But I do think there are some that could come out and they could run it, and some of them may surprise us. I think McCord's one of those. I think Tyler Shuck could surprise people. I think he's pretty pro-ready. As long as he stays healthy. Holy God. You know? I think Jackson Dart could run it. I think Shador could run it and operate it. You know, and I'm on record. You know, Jackson Dart is my number 2. Shador is my number 3. I wouldn't start either one of those in year one. But could they operate this offense? Yes. You know, I think, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I think Jackson Dart, Shador Sanders, Kyle McCord, start naming them. I think they could legitimately beat out Zach Wilson. I honestly believe that. But I digress. The whole point I'm going here is saying is if you remember that list, after Cousins, one of the options I had, I think it was like number 3 or whatever, I don't remember, but it was trade for Sam Howell. And now it's official. The Seahawks have placed Sam Howell on the trade block. And I go back to this. I'm going to be honest with you. Let the draft play out. If you don't get a guy where you like, trade your 5th for Sam Howell. Sam Howell, I think, could come in here and beat out Zach Wilson. And people are going to say to me, well, reason, why are you so confident that these guys can come in here and beat out Zach Wilson. Why? Why, Reason? Why? What do you got? What evidence do you have, Reason? He's beat the Bills. What evidence do you have, Reason? I'll tell you why. I've heard people say, go watch the film with Zach Wilson. Go back to BYU, and he might be able to take Tua's job if Tua gets hurt. Oh, really? Yeah, go back and watch the film in BYU. Where do the best reps, whether it's at BYU or in the NFL, come from Zach Wilson? Out of structure. Have you not learned yet? That can only take you so far. Lamar Jackson has gotten better in structure, but not good enough to the point where the Ravens are even beating people right now. Caleb Williams, why did Drake May and Jaden Daniels look so much better than him? Because they could both play in structure better than Caleb Williams could in year one. Jaden Daniels now could beat you in structure and out of structure, and that's what you're looking for. But those are rare breeds. Not a lot of guys, that's Mahomes. Mahomes can beat you in or out of structure. That is rare stuff you're talking about there. You usually get lopsided. You're either better in structure and you're okay out of it, or you're great out of structure, but you're okay in it. And I go back to Zach Wilson. Am I the only one who reads patterns and who reads the freaking tea leaves? Am I really the only one? What does Sean... I'm telling you, it matters that Sean Payton let Zach Wilson go, and I'll tell you exactly why. Look at the athletic upside Zach Wilson has. Look at the arm Zach Wilson has. The athleticism in the arm of Jarrett Stidham, pale in comparison. But after making Jarrett Stidham, and I'm not talking Gardner Minshew and Jacoby Brissett, because those guys were transitional bridge quarterbacks. I'm talking about pure backup from day one, know your role type stuff. Jarrett Stidham was the highest paid backup quarterback in the NFL last year. He made about $7 million. They knocked him down to $6 million this year. All right, but he's still one of the highest paid backups. They let Zach Wilson's athleticism, they let that arm walk. Why? Because they know if Bobo go down, we can win with Jarrett Stidham because he can play in structure. Why did Sean Payton hate Russell Wilson? Because Russell Wilson was no longer the guy of 2012, 2013, 2014. He was no longer the guy who was deadly out of structure. But he still got the habits that he likes to play out of structure. Show me where Zach Wilson has proven to any of us that he can throw with anticipation, that he can play with timing and rhythm in a timing-based offense that we run. Show me. You will not find it. Go back to BYU. Everything he does and that wows you is out of structure for like 95% of it. That will only get you so far. And it's not even like he's a winner. So this is what I don't get. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, why am I talking about Shedeur? Why am I talking about, Shedeur? Why am I talking about McCord? These guys can play in structure on time. I think Jackson Dart can even play from structure and throw on time better than Zach Wilson. I mean, for all of you that that listened to my quarterback big board, look at it. Sure. Are there a lot of read options, half field reads, et cetera, for Jackson Dart? Yes. But there's a sample size, and when you find that sample size of him being forced to make full field progressions and reads, you see the positivity. You see Jackson go 1, 2, 3, bang, back to 2. 1, 2, 3, bang, back to 1. You see it on film if you look for it, and you find it. And I've just watched every snap of Jackson. I've watched every snap of Shedeur and Cam, too. So, I don't get the Zach Wilson infatuation, and I'm going to tell you this right now, Sam Howell could beat him out. And I go back to my point. If McCord's gone, I know everyone in the league is higher on Ewers than we all are. So if Ewers is gone, right? If guys they like are gone, trade a 5th or 6th for Sam Howell. Go ahead. Why wouldn't you? At least you know what the product is a little bit more than a guy you're drafting in the 5th, 6th, or 7th or signing as a UDFA. I think here's a real take for you. Sam Howell is a better NFL starter than Zach Wilson. Tell me I'm wrong. I like what I saw from Sam Howell as a starter in Washington much more than what I saw from Zach Wilson as a starter. And I'm talking about the overall package. I'm not talking about 1 or 2 games against the Bills here. All right? Or, hey, you really want to throw something at the wall and take something on a developmental guy with some NFL experience? Go trade a 5th, 6th, or 7th for Will Levis after Cam Ward's drafted. Why not? He's beat you. You can't beat him, join him. You know what I mean? If we're really going to go by like, oh, he's had a few games, you know? But I'd be on Sam Howell. Listen, if that quarterback, because I think there's going to be 7 quarterbacks that go, and I've said this, in the first 4 rounds. I truly believe this. I think you're going to have Cam, Shedeur, Jackson, Shuck, Milrow, Ewers, and McCord. That's where we're going to go in the first 4 rounds. So listen, if you don't like Seth Hennigan, my guy, if you don't like Curtis Rourke, my guy, I don't want you to touch Dylan Gabriel. If you don't like Dylan Gabriel, you know what I mean? If you don't like that, go trade a 5th, 6th, or 7th for Will Levis or Sam Howell. What do we got to lose? At least you know if Zach Wilson comes in and looks like a bust, you can turn to a guy with legitimate wins under his belt in Sam Howell. Or you could develop a guy with upside like Will Levis, who already has some NFL experience under his belt, already knows a little bit of what to expect with NFL defenses, etc., etc. You know? That's what I would do. Like what Bobby says in the chat, I wouldn't touch Dylan Gabriel with a 10-foot stick. You know, I already tell everyone, yo, Shedeur is too light, right? Dylan Gabriel is like the homeless man version of all that then. You know what I mean? He's the hobo on the street you pass by and don't even want to throw a nickel at because of the stench coming off of him. And, you know, you keep your kids away from him. That's what Dylan Gabriel is, okay? You know what I mean? I'm not touching that. I'm sorry. No. And if you want to take a little bit of a specimen with an upside, roll the dice on Will Howard, I guess. I don't know. You know? Anyways. Nick Needham gone to the Cleveland Browns. I want to say salut to Nick Needham. Man, you know, that man put his head down and kept working out here. Injuries stacked up on him. You know, next to Cater Kohu, you know, one of the best UDFA signings of the last decade in this organization, you know? You know, his mother, Shannon, she's fantastic. You know, one of the first people back in the day when I joined Twitter to, you know, welcome me. And, you know, it was, you know, before she came back with her new account and stuff like that, which were still cool and stuff. But always been always been great. So a shout out to Nick Needham. I appreciate you, sir. I remember year 1 when you were thrown to the wolves on the boundary when everyone was hurt and you stepped up. I remember when you were trending to being one of the better slots in the NFL and then injuries stacked up. Man, you put your head down and kept working. They wanted to move you to safety. You said, yep, let's do it. So, man, always been a warrior. Always been down for the cause. Shout out to Nick Needham. Him and Cater Kohu, to me, have been the best UDFA signings of the last decade. You know? So, I wanted to say that too. So, shout out to them. All right, now listen, Patreon's channel members, I will have an update coming for you. I'm going to be dropping the rest of my big boards, right, to you guys. So that's going to be linebacker, edge. What else do I got? Center, tackle, tight end, and running back. Those will be coming to channel members and Patreons like tomorrow. All right. Also, I will be having an update coming either tonight or tomorrow as well. Because tomorrow, me and Neil will be live around between 8 and 9 o'clock. We'll be starting at either 8 or 9, and we'll have our like 5th annual mock draft, 3-round mock draft. So make sure you're tuned in for that. Then Wednesday, I'll be live with Doug Lee for the starting lineup right here around 7 o'clock, and we'll be doing a mock draft as well. Anyways, the whole point of that stuff is I got an update coming to you guys, all right? A sleeper that I warned you guys about in the first round months ago. I've been told, oh, he is a sleeper. Watch out. All right, so I'm going to have that in the Patreon and the channel member update, as well as a couple other things. It's going to be a really good one. So usually I do 3 takes, and I got like 6-7 things to talk about on this update. So, yeah, it's going to be a good one. And then, listen, I know I've talked about Walter Nolan, Mike Green. After the draft happens and where they go, I'm sure I'll drop a 3 takes or a channel member update and tell you guys exactly what I heard, just like I've done with Luke Musgrave and other guys that I've talked about, and you're going to want to hear that one, all right? So a lot of info coming to you guys on the Patreon and the channel and for channel members. So I appreciate you guys for supporting. Patreon.com/Phinside The NFL. If you want to become a channel member, hit join. You get access to the info, plus you get emojis. You get a whole bunch of perks. So check it out, all right? Now, all that said, housekeeping out of the way, we do have quite a bit to talk about here. All right. So, now, what's interesting is, well, I guess let me just show you, because some of these things we've kind of talked about. But let's start off with, if you remember, and, let's start off with Kelvin Banks. If you remember, I've only actually put out one mock draft on Twitter. I haven't put out another mock. I put it out before free agency, because I don't do the whole mock thing, the board never follows the way you do. Maybe I'll put one out before the draft happens. I didn't even put out a post free agency mock. I do mine tomorrow with Neil, where we hand select all 3 rounds, and then we go through the 4th and 7 and finish it off. So I'll do that for you guys tomorrow. We do that annually, but I haven't done a mock draft. Maybe I'll drop one. Anyways, the point of the story is my original mock draft, it was Kelvin Banks as our first pick in the first round when the season ended and we were 13 or whatever. And I guess there's multiple reports, and it's not like they're from jabronis, Now, again, because of who they're with, be careful of smoke screens. But this does make sense. And I'm going to talk about this because I don't know if I really like the fit, and I think 13 might be a bit too rich. But, man, we're going to talk about it because there's a lot of stuff around this guy today, all right? So let's get into this. So here we go. Adam Schefter, with the NFL draft getting underway Thursday night in Green Bay, and the Titans on the clock atop round 1, it's time to share some intel and insights. Okay, so now when you hop over here, we're not going to go over the Tyler Shuck and all that stuff, but when you go to quick hit notes right here, and you roll down to where is it? It is expect to take 2 run on receivers. No, it's not there. Okay, here it is. So under who could be drafted higher than most think. So it goes Armand Membo, whatever, right? Anyways, a pair of Texas players. Offensive tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. and quarterback Jahdae Barron. Now, I've told y'all I've heard Jahdae Barron might go higher than Will Johnson. So that's nothing new. But Kelvin Banks Jr. So it says here, a pair of Texas players, offensive tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. and cornerback Jahdae Barron, have generated less talk than some of the other prospects at their positions. But Both are in a position to go higher than some people realize. With Banks being in play for Miami at number 13 and Barron being linked to the Jets at number 7. Now, this I've been telling all y'all, like for weeks and weeks and weeks, that I've been hearing Jahdae Barron is going to be going top 10 and probably won't even be on the board by the time we pick. You know what I mean? We got 4.39 speed, showed his versatility by playing in the boundary this last year, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously recency bias. So Will Johnson being hurt and missing the 7 games this year. And then, now it came out today. You can find it. It's in an Albert Breer draft notes article from today. Apparently, there is let me find the exact quote, but apparently they flagged Will Johnson for a knee issue. So it said, here's the quote: Michigan cornerback Will Johnson has a knee issue that's been flagged. It shouldn't affect him in the short term, but teams are concerned it could impact his longevity. Add to the question on Johnson's long speed, which were not allayed when he decided not to run a 40, and the Wolverine star could slide. So there you go. Now there's smoke about, a knee issue. Now I haven't heard anything about a knee issue at all. What I've heard about is the turf toe, and then I spoke to people who were at the combine, and I spoke to people who were at the pro day, the Michigan pro day, and from what I understand, the hamstring was connected to the rehab. So, you know what I mean? I don't know. And I'm going to tell you this much. No one's going to have more intel on him than Stephen Ross. No one is going to have more intel than Stephen Ross on any of the Michigan players. So, if Will Johnson is on the board and we pass, and let's say Jahdae Barron's gone in the top 10 and Will Johnson's off the board. Let's say Jahdae Barron's gone in the top 10 and Will Johnson's still on the board, and we pass, then I would be, okay, well, maybe the medicals weren't great. Okay? But, I'm just going to tell you flat out. I'm not going to tell you who, what, when, where, why, how. But I'm going to tell you in so many words. I've heard rumors this draft season about, I can confirm I've heard about certain teams putting out certain rumors on certain players. Okay? I'm just going to say that. So, and you'd be surprised if I told you. You'd be shocked. So, I'm just, listen, I don't know. All I've heard about is the turf toe and the hamstring. If he's on the board and Jahdae Barron is gone and, the tackle, Membo and Campbell are gone and they pass on Will Johnson, then maybe the flags should be taken a little bit more serious. I'm not a doctor. I don't have access to that. I'm here to evaluate the film. And the film tells me he's the best off-man zone corner in this class when he's healthy, and it's not particularly close. So that's where we're at with Will Johnson. All right? But with Kelvin Banks here, I think that's a little rich. I'm not going to lie, but there's been a lot of noise about Kelvin Banks today. I saw someone did a mock today, and he went 11. He went 11 to the 49ers. And I was like, damn. Who was it? Was it him? Yeah, it was. We're going to get into Jordan Reid's mock because he did a 7 in his final mock. And, we had Jordan Reid on the channel, friend of the show. He's going to be coming on next year too. But he did a 7-round mock. So I wanted to show you guys because I think he's the best, one of the best in the industry. But he had Kelvin Banks going 11 to the Niners. And then how much Kelvin Banks have been on my timeline today? And I'm like, what is going on right now? Anyways, we're not done there. You think it stops there with Kelvin Banks? Oh, reason that's not much to shake a stick at. So I'm going to tell you this. Either the Dolphins are putting out smoke or there's truth to this. Because now Todd McShay gets asked. All right? Because that article that I showed you from Adam Schefter, it came out this morning. Okay, it came out at 6 a.m. So about 5 hours later, Todd McShay is asked by a Dolphin fan on Twitter. Said, McShay, you started to say something on Miami on the pod, but then got distracted by Chicago. Care to finish? And McShay said, you're absolutely right. My head was swimming with information yesterday. I was going to say, I keep hearing Texas left offensive tackle Kelvin Banks as a strong possibility to Miami at 13. I mean, all in a matter of 5 hours in one day? Either the Dolphins are putting out some great smoke, or, or there's something to that. And what I find interesting is Jordan Reid mocked him to 11 to a Shanahan guy. I find that very interesting. Like, that's intriguing to me. Like, oh, is this one of the guys that the Shanahan guys like? Now, here's what this is where it gets even more interesting. Guys, he's more of a true left tackle than Membo, because he's a right, and Will Campbell, because Campbell's got questions around him about his arm length and his size. Like he's a legitimate left tackle. What's the plan here? Is the plan here I hope the plan isn't to draft him and kick Kelvin Banks into left guard. Cause he's a guy I'd prefer you keep at tackle. I don't know. That's now, can he play guard? Sure, he can play guard. I think Membo or Campbell will be better guard options than him. I think I would like Donovan Jackson. If you're going to go a guy who can play guard and tackle, I would take Donovan Jackson over Kelvin Banks. Now, if you're going to go pure left tackle, then yeah, I would go, if the medical's clear, I'd go Josh Simmons ahead of Kelvin Banks. But if you're looking for that guard tackle hybrid, I would be more intrigued on Donovan Jackson. And really, can I be honest with you people? I'm not on board. I want to keep James Daniels at right guard. But Kyle made a great point. The comfortability of putting a veteran next to Patrick Paul, that's a lot more better for, I'd rather have a rookie next to Austin Jackson than a rookie next to Patrick Paul. I agree with that. I don't know. I know what they're going to do. If they draft Kelvin Banks, they're going to kick him to left guard. That's what they're going to do. If that scenario would go down. Now, again, with my Patreon and channel member update coming, I think there's a guy that's a sleeper pick that's a potential, has flexibility for them too. So, we'll talk about that. But I just, trade back. Trade back to 20 and take, if Banks is there, take him. If not, take Donovan Jackson or Gray Zabel. Acquire another top 100 pick, move back 7 or 8 spots to 2021, get Donovan Jackson or Zabel, and then or if you really want Banks and he's on the board, take him there. That's what I would do. Now, personally, I would take Donovan Jackson over Gray Zabel. I'm going to be honest with you. And reason why would you? Go put on. It don't matter whether you put on the Michigan State or the Oregon or the Oregon tape, watch Derek Harmon against Donovan Jackson. All right? You know what Donovan Jackson said to Derek Harmon? Sir, here's a silver platter with your butt on it. Okay? Handed it to him. That's why I don't... The Derek Harmon talk at like 13 is a little... I'm not totally down with that. And even still, I'm not huge on Derek Harmon that high. So, I do like Walter Nolan better than Derek Harmon, but Walter Nolan and his off-field stuff, I wouldn't let him anywhere near South Beach. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Same goes for Mike Green. I wouldn't let him anywhere near South Beach. So, Kelvin Banks, I think that's pretty interesting. Listen. Again, this falls under the category of it's not a home run, but okay, I get it. I'm okay with it. I understand it. You know what I mean? I would have done it differently and played it differently, but okay. I mean, you had Penei Sewell fall in your lap in 2021 and you chose the receiver, but Kelvin Banks falls in your lap at 13 and you got to pull the trigger. Okay. That's basically where I'm at with that one. All right. That don't make sense to me, but all right. Sure. All right. But, and just from the sound of it, feels like that boy McDaniel got a thing for these Texas guys, huh? I bet you he's watched that running back, Jaden Blue, out of Texas. He said, well, we all know he wants my boy Bayshal Tootin. I told y'all he'd want him before the Combine even happened. Then the Combine happened, and y'all knew he wants that Combine. Was like, give me him. But Jaden Blue, I bet you the same thing. He ran a 4.4, right? So he's probably like, 5'9", 200 pounds, 4.4, get him. Anyways. So predictable. All right. Keeping it going here. We ain't done. Now, I spoke of Albert Breer earlier. This is something I've been telling patrons and channel members for months and months and months. I've been hearing this since like November, December. Like I've been hearing this like early in the process. Okay. Check this out. So, Albert Breer, he did this article where he does draft needs for all 32 teams according to rival scouting departments. All right. So you come down Tennessee, Cleveland, blah, 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 blah. You get down to Miami. It goes in draft order. So what you need to know. The Dolphins have a lot of needs and have the look of a team in the midst of a soft reset. One area where rival teams have seen Miami doing a lot of work is with the interior defensive linemen. And one name in particular that's come up for them is Michigan's mountain of a defensive tackle, Kenneth Grant. He's another one you might not see this high in a lot of mock drafts, but is part of the next group after ex-teammate Graham at the position, along with Nolan and Derek Harmon. So, again, this just backs up what I've been reporting to you guys since November, December, that I've been hearing they are in love with Kenneth Grant. And I've been telling you guys, and I've been trying to, look at every analyst I've had come on here, whether it's Jordan Reid, whoever. A lot of people are higher on Kenneth Grant than, a lot of the experts are higher on Kenneth Grant than some of the draft casual experts. You know what I mean? And then when you talk into people in the scouting circles and connected to teams and stuff, I'm telling you, Kenneth Grant is one of the players the NFL is higher on. I saw the boy Jason Keck in here earlier, and he said, Kenneth Grant is one sandwich away from being fat or whatever. Listen, not even, bro. This guy when he arrived at Michigan, he was 360 pounds, all right? He was clocked, when he was in the 350, 360 range, he was clocked at 18.75 miles per hour. Guy's a freak athlete. he's actually down in the 330, 340 range. He's shed a bunch of weight. Like, he's worked hard on his body. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, Kenneth Grant, he is going to be a difference maker at the next level. I mean, you're talking about, you look at him, you're talking about like a more athletic, this is the ceiling we're talking about here. Like a more athletic version of Vita Vea. Like that's, and I know, and I don't like player comps. But when we talk about like the pocket disrupting, penetrating, and when we talk about, when we talk about the gap eater he is, like, I'm just saying, you're talking about like, you're getting into special territory. And this is why, you don't even really like, hey, listen, I'll just say this. It all makes sense. What I'm hearing, what was being reported by Albert Breer, it all makes sense. You know why? And I'm going to tell you why it makes sense. Look at how in love Chris Greer was with Christian Wilkins. Look at how in love he was with Christian Wilkins. What do you think he's going to be feeling-wise for a guy like Kenneth Grant? Kenneth Grant is a better pass rusher at this stage coming out. Like the pass rush upside is crazier with Kenneth Grant than it was with Wilkins. Like the upside, the athleticism, it's all better with Grant. Like, listen. I want to ask you a question. Because I've played this clip. If you go back and watch the DT film, when I did my big board, I posted it on X. If you go back and watch the Illinois game, have you ever seen a man penetrate the backfield, okay, use the blocker, because you're taking on a double, using one of the blockers to run into the tight end, motioning across the backside to stop a running back? Because Kenneth Grant did that. Took on a double, used the double to take the backside tight end with it, and then crowded it and collapsed it into the running back like 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It was crazy. Because he knew, I can't get there. I'm not going to get hands on him. Okay, well, I've got these big people attached to me. Let's just use it. Like, what? Like, this is insanity. Ridiculousness. Freak stuff. Like, it's one thing to, he's a freak off the field. But when you see the freak stuff on field, you're like, what the hell? Go back to the national championship. Everyone shows the Penn State where he ran down the running back, 12, 13 yards downfield. It's crazy. Everyone goes back to that. But go back to the game against Washington in the college football playoffs. This man lined up over the left guard, collapsed him with one arm, literally put him on his ass with one arm, and then with his other arm sacked Penix. Like, you're doing freakish special stuff on big stages. Think about that. National championship game. Freakish big-time plays. I'm telling you. And you're just scratching the surface. This was the first season where he had over 500 snaps. I'm telling you. Kenneth Grant, home run pick at 13 if they make it. Don't listen to these mocks. Don't listen to nothing. Telling you, kid's going to be special. Mark my words. And when we don't select him and we all look back and he is special, I don't want to hear nothing. Because I'm telling y'all what it is. Walter Nolan is going to be potentially a special pass rusher. But think about this. Walter Nolan's going to flex from the 3 out to the 5. At his size, you're not putting him in over like a nose. You're not putting him inside to a 0 in there. You're not wanting him over, the A-gaps. You don't want him in there at that size. Right? But what can Kenneth Grant do? Kenneth Grant can go from like the 0 to like a 4-eye. And Kenneth Grant's going to has a much higher upside as a run stuffer at the next level than Walter Nolan is going to have. That's just a fact. And that a lot of that is going to come down to size. You know? So now, as a pass rusher, Walter Nolan's a goddamn beast. You know? So, but anyways, I'm just saying, you know, special stuff, man. Like freakish athletically gifted stuff. All right, now, my boy Jordan Reid, let's mock the mock. You know, are we going to mock it? Are we going to give it a thumbs up? I don't really do this, but Jordan Reid, best in the business. We had him on the show. I think this ESPN stuff is behind paywall for you guys. It's not for me. So, hey, let's see. He did 7 rounds. So we're going to show it some love because there's some picks to talk about. All right? We'll just focus on the Dolphins too, all right? So, here you go. Dropped that. Remember, he hyped this up when we had him on the show, right? So, 2025 NFL mock draft. Jordan Reid's predictions for 257 picks. This guy's a stud. All right, so he's got Cam going 1, Travis 2, Abdul. We'll get into all the. Who cares? All right, now, Kelvin Banks, 11, right there. To the Dolphins, 13, Jahdae Barron. This is what I've said. I think this is how it's going. I do think if Jahdae's on the board, this is potentially the move they're going to make, but I think he might go top 10. Anyways, even prior to the Dolphins actively exploring trade options for cornerback Jalen Ramsey, the team had a major hole at the position. Barron is capable of playing on the perimeter or the inside. He logged 300-plus career snaps at all 4 cornerback spots, which allows alignment and versatility unmatched by any other corner in this class. Dolphins' 16 takeaways ranked 27th in the NFL last season, and Barron is a standout turnover generator with a career-high 5 interceptions. Hey, man, if you want a playmaker and a guy who's going to pick off the ball, guess what? That is Will Johnson, all right? The most career pick sixes in Michigan history. He had 2 pick sixes this year alone, and he played, 5 games? But, you know, Jahdae, listen, he's my corner 3. Again, is this a home run pick to me? No, but it's a good pick, and I understand it, so I'm not mad at it. You know? They got Will going at 16. Where do they got my boy Dark going? 21 to... Okay, so here we go. Siobhan Revel, 40. Ouch, that hurts. At 48, they got the Miami Dolphins. Taking a guy, one of my biggest man crushes of this draft class. Someone I've been talking about on this channel since about October. Jonas Savannah, guard, Arizona. Offensive line is a top need after Teron Armstead's retirement. Savannah is a wide-bodied blocker with experience at guard and right tackle. Though he projects best at guard in the NFL, Savannah didn't allow a sack in the final 669 pass blocking snaps of his college career. So in Arizona, he played right guard, right tackle, and left tackle. The only position he did not play in college was left guard, but you see the movement ability, you see how he works in space, you see the mean demeanor. Y'all know I love Jonas Savannah. He's one. Him or Donovan Jackson are home run picks at 48 for me. Siobhan Revel is a home run pick for me, at 48. I think Xavier Watts or Ainer Makuba would fall as home run picks at 48 for me too. But Jonas Savannah, you can count him. Tate Ratledge, I would have a home run pick there too. But Jonas Savannah, one of my biggest man crushes of this draft. Someone I've been talking about on this channel since October. Yeah, all day. Let's go. So far, this is a good draft to start it off. Jahdae, I'm giving a B+. Jonas Savannah, I'd be giving probably an A+. So we're sitting pretty right now. All right. So look at, oh man, Jalen Noel to Carolina. Wow. Rich get richer, huh? Bryce Young. Who got Kyle Williams? New England Kyle Williams. That's a good pick. All right. So now the Dolphins, we don't have another pick until 98. And at 98, they take my boy Deion Walker. Dolphins need defensive linemen, and Walker falling to them here would be ideal. He has appealing size, 6'7", 331 pounds, and potential. Guys, I love the potential. He's another player where I can tell you some stuff about after the draft. All right? He's another one that, yeah, there's some serious questions. There's some serious questions about this guy, for real. Now, you watch the 2023 tape, oh my God. You know what I mean? You know, you see the potential. Like, you watch him against, it was Georgia or Alabama. I was watching either Tate Ratledge or Tyler Booker. I forget which one. But I'm pretty sure, actually, I think it was Georgia. He was, like, unblockable. Like, they could not handle him. So the upside is there, but you got to ask, like, that's going to come into a team's got to be comfortable with what they find in a background check, because I haven't heard great things. All right, at 116, Latham Ransom. Now, Latham Ransom, he made my safety big board from this year, the one that I dropped a couple of weeks back. I'm a fan of Latham Ransom. He actually ended up being my safety 8. You know, I think he's perfect on the perch, down low in the box. Loves the physical aspect. He had 3 forced fumbles in 2024 and 6 since 2021. You know, he can blitz the passer. So, you know, he's 6 foot, 206. You know, clicks and closes very well. Doesn't have the long speed, but, you know, and he's, you know, he's pretty explosive and bursty in short areas, but the long speed, and he can contribute on special teams. Pretty reliable in coverage, and he can lock down tight ends. So, I just don't think you're talking about like a high instinct guy, route recognition guy. Like, there's a lot to be desired in those areas and a couple more. You know, again, I talked about the long speed, you know. And he's had some injuries, right? Broken leg. He had a Liz Frank injury. So there's some flags with a guy like Latham Ransom. But hey, they got a safety. You know, you ain't going to hate. So now continuing to move down. 135, Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers on the board. Now, you're going to say, Reason, what do you think? And this is where I'm going to say, okay, listen. This is right on the cusp of me not giving a damn. It's right on the cusp of not giving a damn. What do I tell you guys? Round 5 and on, they're glorified UDFAs, and you're getting into like the favorites of your scouting department, right? Patrick McMorris, perfect example. That was a scouting room guy. The scouting department pushed for Patrick McMorris. Okay? So you lean on the scouting more, you lean on the scouting a little bit more there. This is your second, 4th round pick. At 135, I would rather just wait till 150. Like, you know, an interesting guy here. Look at Zoff Frazier from UDSA. Very great testing. Great testing. Jalen Rivers, we could use a double up on guard. Isaac Tisla. You know. Right? A lot of you love Dante Thornton. I know people are high on Savion Jones. You know. So now I do have him ranked higher than Will Howard, who's still there. You know. So, but anyways, we come back at 150. This is a great pick, Dylan Fairchild. Fairchild can play guard or center. So I actually really like that pick. I think that's a very, very strong pick right there. I think that's a multi-dimensional guy. You don't have any help really, you know, other than than Andrew Meyer. You don't really have any help at center. Dylan Fairchild gives you depth at center and guard. So I actually really like that. I think that's solid value where you got him there too, because I'm actually high on Dylan Fairchild. Right? He's my 12th guy. So he's 6'5", 315. I think he's a perfect fit for your outside zone scheme too. That's a great pick right there. All right. Now, at 155, Jay Toya, he didn't even make my top 15. Not, like, I'm going to be honest with you. I would take a Luke Kandra. I like Aeneas Peebles better than I like Jay Toya. Peebles I'm high on, right? You see him going 157. That's a Leo Chanel freaking Channing Tindall all over again. Aeneas Peebles I would take all day over that. Hell, I'd take Luke Lachey right here all over that. I'd take Jack Kaiser all over that too. Some linebacker help. I would take Tonka Hemingway out of South Carolina over that too. So I'm not really that high on Jay Toya. I'm just not. I'm not. So, and then we don't pick till 224. And at 224, they have the Miami Dolphins taking Jabbar Muhammad. Wow, he's still on the board. Decent, like, I don't know. Jabbar Muhammad, I watched a bit of him because I watched a ton of Oregon this year. I don't know. He's okay. I wasn't really super, super high on him when I watched him. Now I didn't do a full deep dive on him. I paid attention to him. Didn't really move the needle for me when I watched him. So I kind of kept it moving. You know what I mean? Now, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he had a really high sorry, I forgot. He had a really bad RAS too, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he had a terrible RAS too. Like under a 4. So, but yeah, I mean, I'll say at least he looks a little twitchier on film than he did. Decent against the run. I just think he's undersized. I just don't think there's no real speed to his game. That's why I don't think you saw him run the 40s or the 10s and 20-yard splits. I just don't see the instincts and the high football IQ there. That's a meh pick for me. I'm not gonna lie. And then the final pick, I think we got one more after that pick, if I remember correctly. And the final pick, no, we got two more. We got 231 and 253. So we got Johnny Walker, edge out of Missouri. I actually haven't watched really any of him. The only deep sleep Walker edge prospect that I've watched was out of Arkansas. David Walker out of Central Arkansas. So I can't even speak on that. I haven't watched a ton of Johnny Walker. If we drafted him, I would have to watch a bunch of him. So I'm not even going to sit here and act like, hey, yeah, I know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not one of those people. All right. And then we have one more pick. And our final pick is Branson Taylor. Again, glorified UDFA. I'd actually roll the dice on CJ Dupree or Raheem Rocket Sanders out of South Carolina over him. Even Maxon Hook. I like Maxon Hook. He's intriguing. Willie Lampkin went right before. That would have been a good pick too. Rayon Lane, safety out of Navy. So yeah, there is the 7-round mock from Jordan Reid. It's a pretty good mock. I'm not going to lie. Obviously, 5th to 7th, you're like, whatever, but aside from Quinn Ewers, I like a lot of the value. Lathan Ransom at 116, I like that. Dylan Fairchild at 150, I like that. That's good value in the 5th round. I like that a lot. So, Deion Walker at 98, I trust Weaver. Stevane at 48, solid. So, yeah, shout out to Jordan Reid, man. So here's the deal. Tomorrow I am going to be live at night. We're either going to have an 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. start time. Be on the lookout for that. It's me and Neil's annual Fin Too Deep mock draft. We're going to hand select all first 3 rounds, and then we will give you the rest of the Dolphins picks between the 4th and 7th rounds. All right. And then Wednesday, I'll be live with Dougley. We'll be live around 7 o'clock on this channel for another episode of the Starting Lineup mock draft. Thursday and Friday, I'll be live for night 1 and night 2 of the draft. Saturday, we'll recap day 3. Sunday, we'll hand out some grades. Let's go. And then we'll be getting into what I do yearly. All 22 and deeper valuations on prospects we take, prospect profile. So a lot of content coming your way. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. It goes a long way. We're trying to get to 20K so I can do some big giveaways. Appreciate each and every one of y'all. Thank you to each and every one of you who donated today and have donated over the last little while. But shout out to Lemony Crawdad. He says, I know McDaniel likes his QBs to have different strengths to keep defenses questioning, but he's terrible at adjusting and changing game plans. Touche. Fins up. See you on the next one.